Welcome to Trek Trav. I'm Trav, and with the advent of a Captain Arc or Admiral, Ambassador, President Archer series that people seem to be talking about, but I don't think will actually happen, I wanted to talk about the weakest captain acting-wise in the Star Trek universe, Captain Archer, played by Scott Bakula. Make sure to sit back, like, comment, subscribe, and tell me what you thought about Scott Bakula's acting, or if any of my points are just fucking stupid, make sure to write it in the comments. So our original four captains, Kirk, Picard, Sisko, and Janeway, each one of their actors had an extensive theatre background. Some of them from England, obviously, Patrick Stewart, and some of them from other places. We have since had other actors in Star Trek of whom are really great actors. We have Sonequa Martin Green playing, obviously, Michael Burnham. We have Anson Mount playing Pike. Janeway returned for, Patrick Stewart returned for Picard. Lower Decks had some really good animation actors. Now, I don't expect as much from an animated show. I don't think William Shatner is putting in 100% for the animated series. I think he kind of phones it in. But the one captain who I feel moved out of his wheelhouse is Captain Jonathan Archer, played by Scott Bakula. Now, when I say moved out of his wheelhouse, Scott Bakula was known for Quantum Leap, a science fiction show about traveling to different places in time and putting right what once went wrong. And he was fantastic in that. He played a farm boy scientist who was sort of a bit overwhelmed by everything. Oh boy. And that worked. Him being overwhelmed, him being a bit flabbergasted, him being a bit naive, very much fit with Quantum Leap. I can't remember thinking anything bad about Quantum Leap in terms of his acting. And Dean Stockwell made that show. And that is, I think, why Quantum Leap holds up so well. Dean Stockwell and Scott Bakula worked well together, and Scott Bakula's character and his personality in terms of how he was acting were very they meshed. They meshed really, really well. Now, getting to Star Trek Enterprise, and they wanted to bring it down to Earth. They wanted to make it a bit more real life with their normal people. So they hired Scott Bakula. Now, I have no problem with that. Scott Bakula was brought up, he was meant to be more down to earth, more sort of naive, spacefaring character, which is the most interesting thing about his character in season 1 of Star Trek Enterprise. The problem being that as his character progresses, he's been given a lot more dramatically to do. In the first season, he's playing naive and a bit he's the captain, but he doesn't really know 100% what he's doing. By the time he reaches season 2 and season 3 and season 4, particularly season 3, Scott Bakula is given themes of torture, themes of committing atrocities, like doing bad things, stress. And every time he acts, it almost feels like he's trying, but it doesn't reach the gravitas. Now, if we take a look at some speeches from, say, William Shatner or Patrick Stewart or Kate Mulgrew, or even Avery Brooks, each time while their stories can sometimes be less emotional, their speeches or the way they talk gives you a sense of what is going on. It's a much stronger performance. But every time Scott Bakula sort of makes a speech and stuff like that, I genuinely feel like you're not acting 100%. Like I don't feel like he could hold down a series, and that's evidence, to be honest, of why Enterprise failed. As much as I love Enterprise and I love every cast member on that, Dominic Keating sitting right here, I don't think that Enterprise had the strongest acting cast. And it says a lot when Jolene Blalock, who had no acting experience, outshines you on your show. Because she was genuinely fantastic in Star Trek Enterprise. Scott Bakula, it felt like the character needed more gravitas, but he couldn't quite get it. He'd never quite done that before. And Scott Bakula, not putting it down, he put 100%, and he was very into continuity, as in if he had a cut one week, next week he would have a bandage or another cut. Like, he was very big on attention to detail. He wasn't very big on, I want to say, realistic acting. Sometimes he just seemed to not hit the mark. Now, Avery Brooks in The Pale Moonlight.
I lied. I cheated. I bribed men to cover the crimes of other men. I am an accessory to murder. But the most damning thing of all, I think I can live with it.
Patrick Stewart in Family.
You don't know, Robert. You don't know. They took everything I was. They used me to kill and to destroy, and I couldn't stop them. I should have been able to stop them. I tried. I tried so hard. But I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't good enough. I should have been able to stop them. I should.
Kate Mulgrew at the end of Voyager, at the beginning of pretty much Kate Mulgrew anywhere.
You know, I'm really easy to get along with most of the time. But I don't like bullies, and I don't like threats, and I don't like you, Cullen. You can try and stop us from getting to the truth, but I promise you, if you do, I will respond with all the unique technologies at my command. Janeway out.
William Shatner risked his our business.
In any contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this, but I must point out that the possibilities, the potential for knowledge and advancement is equally great. Risk is our business. That's what the Starship is all about. That's why we're aboard her.
Amazing, all of the captains that come before them. And I very much get that in Quantum Leap, Dean Stockwell and him had a chemistry that worked. Dean Stockwell appeared in Enterprise because they loved each other so much. So I understand why he was chosen. He was also pretty famous in the sci-fi world, so people would tune in just for Scott Bakula. And what he was given, unlike with Dean Stockwell, who is a big, successful actor who's done a lot of drama and a lot of comedy, he's given a sort of a cast who's younger than him, who maybe doesn't have the experience as him, and they don't hold him up. Other than John Billingsley and Jolene Bullock and Connor Trinneer, most of the other acting is a bit wobbly, and more than the other shows. Like, there's some wobbly acting in all the shows, but in Enterprise, I feel like half the cast is not ready to be a central character in a sci-fi series. Now, Scott Bakula in particular, as a captain, he was given the most sort of bland character initially, and they always wrote him as a bit of an everyman. And also just not quite he didn't hold the authority the way that the other captains did. And I would argue have since. I think having a strong captain in a series is important. I think Scott Bakula is possibly the weakest captain. Now, it's 2025. People are talking about a Captain Archer, President Jonathan Archer of the Federation series, which I don't think will happen, because why would you make a sequel to a show that was cancelled early because it wasn't successful? If you want a show like The West Wing is one of the most celebrated and respected TV shows of its time. It gave people a view into what a good White House would be. I think we'll never see it now. But we had Martin Sheen, we had We had all of the actors of whom surrounded this show were fucking amazing. And they all put 1,000,000%. And there's a reason why every one of those actors has gone on to do other things. I don't see Scott Bakula coming back to this, and you're not going to get a lot of the Enterprise cast. What's he going to do? Hire Connor Trinier as his publicity advisor? Or I don't think that'll happen. I don't think Jolene Blalock would be interested. Connor Trinier looks like my granddad now. Like he's turned into the ultimate dad. Dominic Keating, and it's just everyone seems to be a bit not able to. And Scott Bakula, while being fantastic, and Mike Sussman's written some really good episodes, and he is I don't know how to put it. He's one of those writers who really love Star Trek. I don't think that he'll get this show off the ground because I think Scott Bakula isn't a leading man anymore. Like, yes, he did, was it NCIS or CSI? And I watched one episode and he was just sort of playing that same sort of, except slightly older, naive sort of guy and country guy. And once again, Quantum Leap was his show. Anything else I see him in, it just feels a little bit like that's the only personality he has. And I don't think he holds authority enough. You give me a President Picard show or a President Janeway show, 100% they would hold that. You would get amazing speeches, drama, acting in that. I just don't think Scott Bakula is the one who would hold that show together. People might disagree. If you disagree, write it in the comments. These are just my thoughts on the Captain Archer or the President Archer series. And make sure to come back for Strange New Worlds animated series and other random videos on Trav.